parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know. If those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy. Xsnow, it has animated snow that falls on your monitors. If you're using multi-monitors, you can set it to specific monitors. Also, the snow does not cover up your application windows. It actually accumulates at the top of the windows. A really nice effect. Also, you can add Santa and reindeer. You can add birds flying around to the screen. You can add a transparency. You can speed up the animations. It's a really neat little program that many of you guys don't know about. Happy holidays, guys. Peace. Christmas is coming up in about a week, and of course in many parts of the world, the weather is turning colder, many places it's snowing. Many of you guys that are running Linux are looking for a nice, wintry desktop animation effect. And for those of you looking for a program to do this, there is one available. It's called Xsnow. Now, all you need is a Linux desktop distribution that has the X11 display server installed. Xsnow is available in the Arch user repositories. If you're not using Arch, Xsnow may or may not be available for you in your Linux distribution repos, but you can build it from source. It's very easy.
Window 11 feed. Said. Chat Arquetto. Window 11 feed. Said. Rhythm. Window
in the last few
11
months, we've got a lot of
feed.
new subscribers to the channel, and I've got a
Said.
lot of new subscribers that are very new to
Smiling
Linux, and
face
they
with
don't know anything about the
sunglasses.
terminal or the command line, and they really want to learn how to use the terminal. I've been getting people messaging me asking, hey, DT, you use the terminal all the time, and it looks really cool. I want to learn all these terminal commands. Can you point me to a video to learn it all? And I've made dozens of videos about the command line and about bash, but there's really no one video I can send these absolute beginners to that would properly teach them how to use the terminal in the Welcome to another edition of Hey DT. Hey DT is a series of videos I do where I respond to viewer questions and comments. These viewer questions and comments, they typically come from the comments on the videos posted on YouTube and Odyssey. Sometimes these questions and comments come through social media such as Mastodon, Reddit, sometimes through email. And the very first comment that I want to respond to comes from my reaction video to the Linus Tech Tips Linux Gaming Challenge. And this comment is simply, Linux software supported, that's not written on the box. So what this comment is in reference to is on my video I said that when you switch from Windows or Mac over to Linux, you need to make sure that your hardware is supported on Linux. And I'm talking about the hardware you purchase from that day forward. When you go buy a printer, make sure that the printer has a Linux driver, that it actually supports Linux, because some printers do, some printers don't. If you buy a printer that doesn't have a Linux driver, it will never work on Linux. It will be just a dead paperweight at that point, right? You need to go take that printer back to the store and buy a different printer, one that actually supports Linux. And he's saying, well, there's nowhere on the box that says, Linux support. Yes, there is. The problem is, as a Windows user, Windows users have gotten kind of lazy because almost everything works on Windows. I mean, Windows being the dominant desktop operating system, you typically don't have to worry about printers and keyboard, mouse, things like that, peripherals. Typically, they're always going to support Windows most of the time. That's not always true. I mean, you should still read the box if you're a Windows user just to verify that it does work on Windows. But for the most part, you can get away with never looking at the box. But when you switch to a non-Windows operating system, such as Mac or Linux or whatever, you actually do need to read the box on the hardware you buy. Make sure that it actually supports Linux. And most printers will actually have this on the box. Well, just as an example, I know anytime I pick up a HP printer or a Brothers printer, you actually look on the box, it'll tell you, supports Windows, Mac, Linux, and it'll have the logos. It'll even have the Tux logo on there. So there's no doubt when you pick that thing up, it will work on Linux. So the idea that this information is just impossible to find, like these hardware manufacturers don't put that on the box. Yes, they do. Maybe there's a few out there that don't. Maybe you'll have to do a 30-second Google search. Oh my God, that's going to take so long. But for the most part, you don't even have to do that. Most of the time, you can actually read on the box for all kinds of things. I mean, I buy external SSD drives and things like that, and many times they'll put, hey, supports Linux on the back of those things, even though you just assume something like that is going to be supported no matter what operating system you plug it into. Still, they take the time to actually put that stuff on the box, actually read the labels on the stuff you purchase. And the next question is, hey DT, you never did a video on Qubes OS. Is it because you're not interested in it? If so, why is that? No, it's not that I'm not interested in it. I think Qubes is a fascinating operating system. The problem with recording a video about Qubes OS is Qubes OS requires a lot of system resources because it's essentially everything's run in virtual machines. That's basically how it works. The problem with Qubes OS is that Qubes OS can't actually be installed inside a virtual machine itself. So I can't install Qubes OS inside VirtualBox or Virt Manager and then record that virtual machine, because Qubes OS just won't install inside a virtual machine itself, right? So I would have to install Qubes OS on physical hardware. That hardware would have to be a beefy machine to run Qubes OS properly. I only have one beefy machine.
my main production
Subscribe to
machine.
join the
I
Foot
can't install Cubes
Window 11
OS
feed.
on that.
Said.
And then
Why
how would I
retract?
record Cubes OS on
New
this
animate.
machine? Well, I need a separate machine to actually
forward your
record,
emoji.
to stream everything to. That machine would also have to be a very beefy machine, to stream video from one computer to another and capture all of that. I don't have two computers that could do that. So that's why you've never seen a Cubes OS video from me. And that's probably why you don't see much Cubes OS content on YouTube. Is just because of the challenge of actually recording that thing. Is system resource requirements, and the fact that it doesn't run properly in a virtual machine just makes it hard to capture it and get a video on it. The next question is, hey DT, I get this error message with your DTOS script. DTOS is my Arch Linux post-installation script that gets you my Xmonad desktop environment. And he says, it always says error recompiling Xmonad. What exactly is the problem here? So the problem with my DTOS script is, for one thing, it doesn't give good error messages, because anytime the script craps out at all, it fails at some point, it automatically skips to the last error message in the script, which is the error recompiling Xmonad error. So that doesn't really tell us exactly where it failed, but I can tell you 95 times out of 100 where the script actually fails is when it starts installing programs through Pac-Man. And I will actually give you a command on screen here, and what you need to do is run this single command, cd into the DTOS directory that you cloned, and run this one command here. And this is just the sudo pacman install the list of packages for DTOS command. And at some point, you're probably going to get an error. It's going to be a conflict, a package conflict. So if you're installing this on, Endeavor or Garuda or whatever distribution, Arco, Linux, chances are they have a package that conflicts with some of the packages I am installing. And if there's an error during that process, the script will fail. What you need to do is figure out the package that's causing the conflict and see if you can get around that in some way. Maybe uninstall the conflicting package and then try to rerun the entire DTOS script again. The next question is, hey DT, what do you do to protect your posture and general health when working at a computer or a desk all day? What do you recommend to us? Thanks. Okay, well, you have to understand that I don't work at a computer and a desk all day. I mean, I work at a computer,
Window
obviously. This is my job, these days, making YouTube videos, and it does require me sitting at a desk for a few hours a day, but it's not like an 8-hour a day, 40-hour a week kind of job that some people do have. That, so I'm not at a desk
I think
that kind of amount of time. Typically, the only time I'm really sitting
Window
at this
11.
desk is when I'm recording, and usually when I'm recording a video, I'm kind of moving around and active, because doing hand gestures or whatever, looking around. So my posture is pretty good when I'm actually recording a video. Where my posture gets kind of crazy is editing the video. So this video, for example, I may take a couple of hours to edit this video when I'm done. And when I'm sitting at a keyboard staring at a screen, hunched over, leaned over, yeah, that's bad. What I like to do is take a break. Many times, you've got computer applets that you can download and install that will actually give you a timer. Just set a timer. Just know, hey, every 30 minutes, get up, walk around for a few minutes. Take 5 minutes every 30 minutes or 5 minutes every hour, whatever it is that you can afford. Get up and actually just walk around, get up from the chair for a minute. As far as general health and posture, I can give you health tips, but I can't really give you posture tips because I'm not that focused on it. I know when I start getting hunched over at a desk, I get up and move around a little bit, or I just stop for the day. General health tips, though, good general health tip would be to actually be active. I know that's kind of crazy for people that sit at a computer or a desk all day, but you want to be active. You don't want it. That's so sedentary, just sitting at a computer, that you're guaranteed to actually be overweight, out of shape, and potentially be unhealthy. So, walk 30 minutes a day. And that really, I would say sign up for a gym membership and actually really begin seriously working out. But honestly, if you go walk 30 minutes a day, you would be surprised how much better you feel, and you'll probably actually lose a little weight. We're not talking about running. I'm not saying go jog. I'm saying walk for 30 minutes a day. Put on a podcast. Put on your favorite podcast and go walk around your neighborhood 30 minutes every morning before you go to your job and sit at that desk, and I think you'll be amazed at how much better you feel. The next question. Hey DT, I feel Kdenlive is the worst video editing software. Whenever I cut clips and bring them together, they create a screaming effect of audio, which I really hate. Okay, so I can't really comment on his particular bug. I've never experienced that, so I can't give you any tips on how to fix that. I will say Kdenlive is very buggy, very flaky. Kdenlive has a lot of problems, and I'm a big proponent of Kdenlive. You guys know I edit all of my videos on Kdenlive because it's by far the best free and open source video editor we have. Nothing else comes close. I mean, I've tried Shotcut and OpenShot and TV and Olive and Flowblade and probably half a dozen others. I've tried them all. They're all either really light as far as effects and plugins and features, to the point where they're almost unusable, or scrubbing through the playhead is really bad. If you can't even scrub through the playhead smoothly and actually watch your video while you're editing it, then your video editor is almost useless at that point. And Kdenlive does a lot of the really basic stuff well. The problem with Kdenlive is a lot of the more advanced stuff, the effects and the compositions, the plugins, the color grading, and all of that stuff is really fantastic when it works. The problem I have these days is, Kdenlive sees a lot of new releases. Every couple of months, it seems like there's a new release of Kdenlive. And things that were working, effects or compositions that were working for me, that I had grown used to using all the time, all of a sudden they don't work on the next version. They're broken. For whatever reason, I don't know. And then they'll fix it in the next version, but then some other things that I use on a regular basis will be broken. So it's a constant rotation. I never know what's going to be broken in the latest release of Kdenlive. And of course, I'm on a rolling release distribution, so I'm always on the latest release of Kdenlive. And there's snap, flat pack, app images for Kdenlive. A lot of people really preach, hey, use the app image for Kdenlive because it seems to be more stable because it has all the dependencies. That's not necessarily the case with the app image either, because the app image still has the same kinds of problems, from release to release, where the new version
Window
will
11
break
feet.
things that were working in the previous version, vice versa, and it's frustrating. It's one of those things that those of us in the free and open source community that want to use a free and open source video editor to produce content, many of those people talk bad about Kdenlive. They're really frustrated about Kdenlive. I've never really vented my frustrations of Kdenlive because I do want to promote it, because I think it's a great project, but I understand the frustration. It is really, really hard to not use a proprietary video editor just out of sake of convenience, all right? Because on Linux, I could use DaVinci. It's available on Linux. I could use Lightworks. It's available on Linux, but for ideological reasons, as long as I can get my videos done with a free and open source editor, that's what I'm going to use. I'll put up with all the pain, right? I'll put up with the pain, the heartache, the frustration, as long as I can get it done with free and open source software. But I understand most people are not like that. And if you're not like that, DaVinci and Lightworks are available. What I've been doing here recently, though I haven't told you guys about this on camera, the last 3 or 4 videos I've made, I actually edited them in a video editor that is not Kdenlive. And it is a free and open source editor. I'm trying something different out, and you'll probably get a video about that particular video editor very soon. So the next question is, hey DT, how do you make your thumbnails? So I make all of my thumbnails and all of the channel artwork, the YouTube banner, the channel header, and all that. Heck, even, some of the logo designs for my t-shirts and things. I do most everything inside GIMP. GIMP is the GNU image manipulation program. It is our free and open source alternative to something like Adobe Photoshop. GIMP is available on all Linux.
Window 11 feet.
Free and open source programs on the planet. I've done at least 2 or 3 videos on GIMP. I did a specific video on how I create my thumbnails in GIMP. So check out that video if you're specifically interested in thumbnails. If you're new to GIMP, I did like a 30-minute introductory video on GIMP, showing you guys the basics and all the tools in GIMP. And that is a really great video for those of you wanting to get up to speed quickly on how to use GIMP. Now, if you were looking for more than just, hey, what program to use, maybe you were looking for tips on what makes a good thumbnail. Well, what makes a good thumbnail is going to differ from person to person. Every YouTube channel is different. Everybody's audience is different. What works for one person is not going to work for the other. Nothing is ever a one-to-one copy, right? You can't do exactly what I do and get the same results. I can't do exactly what this person's doing and get their results. Everything's different. But I will say, in general, what you want to do with your thumbnails, you want to have a lot of contrast. You want to have a lot of saturation, because really high contrast, really oversaturated images, that color and that contrast, that really pops, right? When you're viewing search results in YouTube, those really highly saturated, high contrast images really stand out from those boring, just a normal, somebody took a picture on a phone and really didn't doctor it in any way. If you take the time to take a picture of yourself, maybe on a phone, and then put it into GIMP and really oversaturate yourself, you're going to really stand out. You could even draw a border around yourself. That's what a lot of people do. One thing I often tell people, people ask me about my thumbnails, why they all look the same as far as the color scheme I use with the text, the text that's wrapped in various boxes that are black, white, and purple. I do that for consistency's sake, and I strongly urge everybody that creates thumbnails to be consistent with their thumbnails. That way, when you're building an audience, they know when they see a thumbnail, oh, that's that person's thumbnail. And the next question is, hey DT, have you ever considered getting professional help? So, obviously, being a Linux user, I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer kind of person, right? I don't need to hire professionals to do anything, because typically if I have a problem, I'm going to fix it myself. That is what we do in this community. So no, typically I don't bother with professional help unless it's in one of two areas. If I need plumbing work done, I don't have the tools or the professional know-how to do that, especially if there's actually a serious problem with water leaking in the house. I'll call a plumber. And the car, I don't work on my car, right? It's just not that I couldn't work on my car. It's just for sake of time. If it's a big project, yeah, I'm taking that thing to the shop. But beyond that professional help, I don't need it. The next question, hey DT, is there a distro that does not have a dock at all, has the super key search thing, and shows the running apps in the top bar for easy switching between apps? Or can we create the same in Pop! OS in some way? So, if you're looking for a distribution that does not have a dock at all, has a super key thingy, which he's talking about, you hit the super key and it brings up a menu and you can start searching for your apps, and it shows the running apps in the top bar. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm assuming this person is kind of new to Linux, because is there a distro that has all of this? You're not necessarily looking for a specific distro. You're looking for a specific desktop environment. So, and this could, you can run desktop environments on any distro. All of them run on any distribution. So it's not a Linux distribution problem. So whatever distribution you're on, keep running it. Just install a different desktop environment. One that I would suggest looking at is Kde Plasma, because Kde Plasma has a panel. You hit the super key, it brings up the menu, and you can search through the menu. Just start typing after you hit the super key and all of that. The panel, by default, is typically at the bottom of the screen, but you can move it to the top. Actually, you can move it to the left or to the right. You can move it, or any side of the screen you want, put it at the top. So you got your top panel, you got your super key thingy, and it shows the running apps in the top bar. Yeah, KDE, the panel, has many widgets that will allow you to have a task manager or quick launchers, or kind of a dock bar thingy, where instead of having a big button for your task manager to show windows that are open, they'll just be iconified. So you can do all of that in KDE Plasma. And I'm pretty sure that most of the big desktop environments, maybe not GNOME is kind of limited, but I'm pretty sure XFCE probably can do this.
Enter.
LXQt can do this as well. I would be surprised
Selected.
if
Puzzled. Narrator settings window.
I'm sure could do this as well. So it's probably a situation, by his question. He's on Pop OS, and Pop OS uses the GNOME desktop environment, which is rather limiting. So unfortunately, he probably just picked this as his very first distribution and his very first desktop environment, and that's not where I would have directed somebody, right? So
Start project
from
window.
if that's where you're
Shift.
coming from. Kde
Lock.
Plasma
Jump
is
list. Exiting
probably a
narrator.
better place to start. And the next question is in a response from a video I recently did, one of my backyard boomer vlogs. I was talking about the Linux community and the Linux ideals and things like this. And in a little box out to the side of my head, I said, right now I'm making Linux sound like veganism as far as a lifestyle change, a way of life. And this person writes, "Hey DT, being a vegan means making an ethical and moral decision to not contribute to hurting animals or exploiting other sentient beings, i.e. animals. What's your problem with that?" I didn't say I had a problem with that in this video, right? I said nothing about my thoughts on veganism other than the correlation between Linux being a lifestyle change, a way of life, and veganism being like a major lifestyle change and a way of life. That's the only thing I said. I never said that I had a problem with veganism or that I love veganism. I made no comment on this at all. So here's one of the things being a YouTube content creator is so many times people try to start arguments
Make
where
your
there's
computer
not one.
easier to use.
Sometimes they
Windows
just
will
make
read
stuff up. One of the
Make your
really
computer
interesting
easier to-
things over the
Windows
years I've
hidden.
noticed is
Exiting
people
narrator.
assume political identity with me. I make a video, and I've had several videos where I've posted something, and I guess it leaned a little left, right? According to some people's minds. I was like, man, you're one of those leftist, liberal, yada yada yada, cancel culture people. Shame on you, DT. And then I make a video the next day, and all of a sudden that same person will be, "Oh, you're one of these far right wing extremists, yada yada yada." The same person called me a leftist the day before, calling me this right wing person the next day. Like, and it didn't say anything political on either video. As far as I've never once on any video mentioned political parties
Make
that
your
I
computer
belong
easier
to.
to use.
Anybody I've ever voted
Windows will
for,
read
you
and scan
never,
this list
not
automatically.
one single time on
Press
any
the space
video
bar to
have you
select the
had
highlighted option.
anything like that from me. So it's weird. People just assume this stuff, or they just make this stuff up. I think some of these people just want to have an argument.
Windows sign in.
So they
Pane.
start something like this vegan person, right? Now, I didn't say anything about veganism, but he's going to try to put words in my mouth like I did, hoping that I'll come back and have an argument with him. No, I'm not going to do that, right? Because I don't spend my time arguing with people on the internet. That's why I canceled my Twitter account, right? That's why I canceled my Facebook account. I don't do that. I have stuff to do. And honestly, you guys should have better stuff to do. If you're one of these people that are constantly looking to argue with somebody on the internet to the point where you have to make stuff up to have an argument with somebody, just to feel better about yourself, you really need to have some introspection. You really need to take a darker, deeper look at yourself and figure out why that's the case and try to resolve that. Now, before I go, I need to thank a few special people. I need to thank the producers of this episode. And of course, I'm talking about these guys right here. Deputy James, Matt, Michael, Mitchell, Paul, Scott, West, Connie, Allen, Linux Ninja, Chuck, Commander Kurt, Radio Guy, David, Dylan, Gregory, Heiko, Casca, Lee, Maximite, Nitrix, Urion, Alexander, Pizarro, Project Raider, Red Prophet, Steven, and really these guys. My highest tier patrons over on Patreon. Without these guys, this episode of KDT would not have been possible. The show is also brought to you by each and every one of these ladies and gentlemen as well. All these names you're seeing on the screen right now, these are all my supporters over on Patreon, because I don't have any corporate sponsors. I'm just sponsored by you guys, the community. If you like my work and want to support me, look for DistroTube over on Patreon. Alright guys, peace. Why does the vegan diet make everyone angry? See what I did there? Welcome to another edition of KDT. KDT is a series where I answer viewer questions and comments. Typically, these viewer questions and comments revolve around some of the content I've made recently on my YouTube channel, but some of them are just general Linux-y type questions. The first question I got was, "Hey DT, what's the difference between theming your terminal and theming your shell? Can I just theme my shell and forget about theming my terminal, since the terminal always takes the shell theme?" Well, this is kind of confusing. So there is a difference between the terminal and the shell, and a lot of new to Linux users get confused by this. So your terminal is actually the terminal emulator. It's that program that you pull up, that you type commands into, right? That's the terminal. The shell is the program running inside the terminal. It's the interface inside the terminal. So we're talking about the bash shell, or ZSH, or fish. You know, that's the shell. What you see as the shell prompt, that's the shell. And when we talk about theming the shell, oftentimes that's typically what people are talking about, theming that shell prompt. You know, whether that shell prompt has your username at localhost, or whether it prints the working directory in your shell prompt, or whether your shell prompt tells you whether you're in insert mode or normal mode, assuming you're using the vim bindings in your shell. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about theming the shell, typically. When we talk about theming the terminal, that's completely different. We're talking about what most people think about when they think about theming. We're talking about fonts. We're talking about colors. So we're talking about changing your font face, your font size. We're talking about your 16 color palette that you set in your X resources, if you're using URXVT or Xterm, or your 16 color palette set in ST or Alacrity or Termite. You typically do that in their own config files. But that's what we're talking about theming the terminal. We're talking about changing the fonts and changing the colors. When we talk about theming the shell, typically we're talking about theming the shell prompt. Recently, I made a video where I said that Linux Mint may be better for beginners coming from Windows than Ubuntu. And I got some questions and comments regarding that, but let me sum up the majority of some of the questions I got around that. It typically goes something like this.
this. Hey DT, I thought you said Linux Mint should die. I thought you said that Ubuntu and Mint were basically the same distro with a different desktop environment. And I thought you said Arch Linux was the best beginner distro. Alright, so I have made 3 videos in the past, and one of them was a news commentary kind of video, and part of the title included the words "Mint should die," and that was basically me paraphrasing the title of an article, because the title of the article was a little lengthy, so I just summed it up in this particular article. The title of it was "Mint Should Die," basically. And what the author was suggesting was, at the time, Clem and some of the Linux Mint developers were a little tired and frustrated about all the work involved maintaining Linux Mint. They were starting to voice this kind of thing. And this particular news article, this author said, hey, why don't you guys just quit working on Linux Mint and just work on the Cinnamon desktop environment, which the Mint guys also developed. It's, if you just focus on one thing instead of trying to do this entire distribution, just focus on the desktop environment, you won't be as overworked. It would be kind of neat too, because then Mint, instead of being a distribution, it's really just the Cinnamon desktop environment. It becomes kind of distro agnostic, right? You can get that Mint experience on any distribution, Ubuntu or Fedora or Arch. And a lot of people trash that particular author and that article, especially, a lot of the Mint fanboys. And, I made the video on that particular article, and I said that I understood where the author was coming from. He made some very good points in that article, but I guess, when you get fanboyism, nobody wants to actually read the article. They only want to see what they want to see, and a lot of people only want to see what they want to see when they read the title of a video. And if I title it "Mint Should Die," well, those are my words, and I think that, even though in that video I didn't think Mint should die. I don't care whether Mint lives or die. I don't run Linux Mint. I don't have an opinion on that at all. I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't really care one way or the other. My only point was, I understood where the author of that article was coming from, and there were some people, especially in Linux journalism and Linux YouTubers, that unfairly trashed the author of that article. And I was trying to, show the other side of that. Now, the next part of that question was, I have said in the past that Ubuntu and Mint are basically the same distribution with a different desktop environment. Now, those are my opinions. That is my actual thought. Yes, Linux Mint is essentially Ubuntu with a different desktop environment. I mean, there's differences, but the differences between Ubuntu and Mint are minor compared to the differences between, Slackware and Red Hat. You're right. I mean, in all practical senses, once you get under the hood, Mint is Ubuntu. Now, yes, they have different desktop environments. In my video the other day about Mint being better for the brand new user coming from Windows, is because the desktop environment means everything to the new user. So, yeah, for the new user, yes, Mint makes a lot more sense than Ubuntu because they're going to be more comfortable probably in Cinnamon rather than GNOME 3 as far as their desktop environment. But for more advanced users, you know, again, once you get under the hood, once you get away from the desktop environment, you know, just you drop into a command line or drop into a TTY prompt or something, right? It's the same distro. And then the third part of that question is I made a video where I said Arch Linux might be the best beginner distro, and it might be for certain users. Kind of like in my Linux Mint video the other day, I said Linux Mint might be the best beginner distro for new to Linux users. I preface that they have to be new to Linux users coming from Windows. Then Linux Mint might be the best beginner distro. But then I also added the caveat that, you know, it's for typical computer users. Now, for people that are more tech savvy, more computer literate, and maybe more adventurous, they want to explore Linux, they want to learn Linux, they want to deep dive into Linux, then Linux Mint would probably not be my recommendation for those people to start on. You know, I would give them something a little more challenging, something that involves a little more work. So some of the Arch-based distributions like Manjaro or Arco, or if they're really interested in learning, just go straight to mainline Arch as your beginner distribution. There's a lot of people that actually do switch to Linux and actually start with Arch Linux. It's not that unusual. The next viewer question is, hey DT, do I need to use a terminal at all with Linux Mint? I feel like any Linux user that's switching from Windows to Linux, if they choose Linux Mint, they don't have to use a terminal at all, right? Well, this is actually true for 90% plus of the Linux distributions that are out there these days, desktop Linux distributions. And with Mint, Ubuntu, Elementary, you know, SUSE, whatever. If you don't want to use a terminal, yes, you don't have to, because a terminal is not required for you to install most Linux distributions out there. And then once you get it installed, if you choose not to use the terminal, well, that's your choice. You choose not to use the terminal. So, yes, you don't have to use a terminal with Linux Mint or any other Linux distribution for the most part. Desktop Linux distributions anyway. But you should use the terminal. 100% everybody that uses Linux should have some working knowledge of the terminal, because at some point you are going to run into a problem with your desktop. There's going to be an issue with your Linux installation, and there's going to be a problem you need to solve, and most of the time the only way to solve it is to bring up that terminal and put some commands in the terminal and run those commands. So it's extremely difficult to get away from using the terminal all the time unless you are of the mindset that, hey, I accept the fact that my Linux system may break on me at some point, and because I refuse to use the terminal, I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to format the drive reinstall Linux Mint or whatever it is I'm running. Yes, you can be like that. I think that is a rather poor worldview to have, that you're just going to avoid the terminal at all costs. Just learn a few basic commands. Watch some of the terminal stuff I've done on the YouTube channel. This stuff is not that hard. At least get to the point where you're not scared to, update your system at the command line, or install or remove software at the command line. If you just do some of those basic tasks that you do on a regular basis, start doing those in a terminal at the command line. And then when you really need to dive a little deeper in the command line and do some other stuff, it's not that strange. It's not that alien. It's not that foreign, because you've at least used the terminal a little bit. The next question is, hey DT, why do so many Linux programs end with the letter D? What is the significance or the importance of these programs that end with the letter D? So he's talking about things like System D, Network D, Login D, uPower D, Cron D, Tumblr D, things like that. There's so many of these programs running on your system. If you pull up a terminal and fire up HTOP, you will see that there are several programs running on your system right now that end in the letter D. What does that D signify? It signifies that those are a daemon. They are a daemon, a background process that's always running, and it's running so that some other stuff can use that daemon later. For example, I have a daemon on my system running right now for Emacs. It's always running even when I'm not using Emacs. Why? It's because when I start Emacs will load faster, right? Because technically it's kind of already running anyway. If I was using the URXVT terminal, I would have a URXVTD daemon running in the background, where technically URXVT, it's kind of always running, right? Anytime I pull up a terminal, it should open faster, everything should run faster. Now, the downside of using these daemons for things like Emacs and your terminal, things like that, is when the daemon crashes, typically you lose all the programs that were running using the daemon, all the processes that were using that daemon. So if I was using the Emacs daemon and I had a bunch of Emacs client windows on my screen, if the daemon ever crashed, I lose all the work I'm doing in Emacs right now. All the Emacs windows are going to close. If I had, 20 of them open, I'm going to lose all of them. Same thing with URXVT. If I'm using that daemon for the URXVT terminal, when the daemon crashes, I lose all the terminals that were open, and I lose all the work that I happen to be doing in those terminals. But that's getting off the topic of your particular question. The answer to your question is, what does the D signify? It signifies that program is a daemon. The next question, hey DT, you are a hypocrite because you advocate free and open source software and you use YouTube. Or here recently I've gotten this one because I did that video the other day promoting online anonymity. Hey DT, you are a hypocrite for saying that everybody needs to be anonymous online, yet you post on YouTube. First of all, I've gotten this question thousands of times since starting the YouTube channel. I keep getting this question. Why are you a free software advocate and you're on YouTube or other social media platforms. I also have a Reddit account that I use sometimes. Obviously, I'm on Patreon. Patreon is not exactly a free and open source kind of site either, but why particularly am I on YouTube? That's the sticking point, right? Because Google owns YouTube, Google is evil, YouTube is evil, right? Well, I make videos. I want people to watch my videos. I want people to watch my videos that promote free and open source software. I want people that maybe have never been exposed to this message, that they need to get off of proprietary software and move to free and open source software. I want to get to as many of those people as possible. How do I get my message out to as many people as possible? I put my videos on YouTube. That's how I do it. If I put my videos on some alternative platform, a free platform, and I'm on free platforms, by the way, I'm on Library. You can watch all of my videos over at library.tv, wry.tv. But I don't get nearly the amount of views on my videos on Library as I do on YouTube. And it's kind of strange for me to be on Library promoting free and open source software when I imagine that more than half the people probably that use Library already know about free and open source software. The reason they're on Library and not on YouTube is because they love free and open source software and they're trying to get away from Google and YouTube. So at that point, I'm kind of preaching to the choir. If I post on platforms like that and never post to, the proprietary platforms like YouTube or Facebook. Yeah, I don't have a Facebook account. But if I was one of those people that really are out there trying to get people to get away from Facebook, who are the people I need to be getting that message to? The people on Facebook. So it might be useful for me to have a Facebook account at that point. As far as the online anonymity portion of that question, hey, if you promote online anonymity, why are you on YouTube? I promote the right to be anonymous online if you choose to. I don't choose to be anonymous. When I do these videos, there's no point in it. And besides, if you really needed to be anonymous because you were fearful of imprisonment or fearful of people persecuting you in some way, then why would you be recording yourself on video at all? I mean, if I was really worried about that, I wouldn't even make videos, much less try to be anonymous in a video. So that is just a silly question. The next comment is interesting because he doesn't address me as DT or Derek. He addresses me as some other name. He says, "Thanks, Lex. Do you use Emacs to plan how to kill Superman?" No, I don't, but that's a great question. Because what you're really asking me is what's some of the stuff that I do inside of Emacs. Obviously, you can use Emacs as a text editor, but here recently, some of the other stuff I've been doing more and more inside Emacs. I really love using the LFeed RSS reader inside Emacs. I really love MU4E, the email client in Emacs. The other day I found a really cool Mastodon client for Emacs. It's just called Mastodon. Look for the Mastodon plugin. I think it's in Melpa. So I have been using Emacs more and more for stuff that's not related to text editing, because I still think Emacs is probably the best operating system on the planet. Haven't used it yet to plan how to kill Superman, but I've never really been a Lex Luthor kind of guy. I've always been more of a fan of Dr. Evil. And the final question I got was, hey DT, can you do a video or a live stream where you let your viewers send in their dot files and you critique their dot files live on camera? I think it would be a good help because you can highlight the good and the bad practices that people put in their dot files. No, that seems like a terrible idea, to be honest. I think you think these dot files are something they're not. I think you're thinking that these dot files are like people's code, like they're programming and they have this code, and I can go and find the bad practices as far as you shouldn't have had this particular syntax here, this spacing here, or things like that. Dot files are not like that. Dot files are simply people's preferences for their particular programs that they use on a daily basis. So your bash RC is just your preferences, what you like to do in bash. Your vim RC, same thing. It's just your preferences for when you're using vim, you know, your key bindings and the plugins you use and things like that. I would never critique somebody's dot files because I would be critiquing the preferences, what they like to do in their particular programs. And it's your workflow, right? And you figure out the stuff you like for your workflow, put it in your dot files. I would never, tell somebody that their dot files are wrong or that you shouldn't be setting that. You should be doing it like this because this is the way I do it in my dot files. I would never do that. Now, I do think it would be interesting if we had some kind of central website or central repository where people could contribute dot files, their particular dot files, so other people could check it out and maybe, see what other people are doing in their dot files, take what they want, leave the rest, that sort of thing. I think that would be neat. I would be open to maybe setting something like that up, maybe a website or maybe just something on GitLab where people can just push their particular dot files, and we can all have one central location. That way everybody can check out, these 100 different bash RCs that people have contributed. That way people can see what people are doing, because everybody's doing something different. And you might see something that person is doing in their dot files that, hey, I like that, I'm going to take that. Or they might see something in your dot files that they like, and they start using some of what you're doing. I think that would be interesting, but again, I would never personally do a video, just pulling up people's dot files and telling people that this is bad and that's good. That seems kind of strange. So that's all for this edition of Hey DT. If you guys would like to, send in a question or a comment, typically I don't, just ask for comments for this particular show. I just occasionally I read my YouTube comments, and if it's something interesting, I just jot it down.
Easier to use.
I know I'll eventually
Windows
get around to answering it on camera. So that's where I get the questions and comments from. Typically, they're either from the YouTube comments or from people over on Mastodon. Any of you guys, if you're not following me on Mastodon, You really should. I've got about 3,000 people that follow me over there, and it's really nice because, you know, the YouTube notification system is kind of broken, but if you're following me on Mastodon, you don't have to worry about YouTube notifications, because every time I post to YouTube, I also get a toot over on Mastodon. And, you know, if you're following me on Mastodon, you'll get notified of that toot on Mastodon. So if the YouTube notification system is broken, you'll still receive something from Mastodon about me posting a new video. Now, before I go, I need to thank a few special people. I need to thank Michael, Gabe, Haplo, Nate, Corbinian, Mitchell, Entropy UK, John, Arch5530, Chris, Chuck, DJ, Donnie, Dylan, George, Lewis, Omri, Paul, Robert, Sean, Tobias, and Willie. These guys, they're my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. They are the producers of this episode. I would also like to thank each and every one of these ladies and gentlemen here. These are all my supporters over on Patreon, because without each and every one of these ladies and gentlemen, again, this episode you just watched wouldn't have been possible. If you'd like to support my work, consider doing so. You'll find DT over on Patreon. All right, guys. Peace. Welcome to another edition of Hey DT. Hey DT is a series of videos I do where I respond to viewer questions and comments. These viewer questions and comments, they typically come from comments on the videos posted on YouTube and Odyssey. Sometimes these questions and comments come to me through social media such as Reddit, Mastodon, sometimes through email. And the very first question I want to read is, "Hey DT, why are you using the mouse to get to your cursor position in Vim and Emacs?" And what he's talking about here, and I get this question all the time, is, you know, when you guys are watching me on video using Vim and Emacs, you know, when I first open the document and go to a place in the document, typically I'll use the mouse cursor. I'll take the mouse and I'll put the cursor exactly on the line that I want to start editing. Why do I do that? Well, the reason I typically do that is because my hand is already on that mouse anyway, because I do these videos. So I have a triple monitor setup in front of me. I've got 3 monitors in front of me, and on the far right monitor, the third monitor, I typically have OBS open. The Open Broadcaster Studio is the program I use to record these video clips, and they have buttons on it: start recording, stop, and all that, pause and everything, and it's all operated with the mouse. There are key bindings you could use in OBS. You could set up key bindings and have it all keyboard control, but typically everybody uses the mouse typically for OBS, and that's what I use. So, you know, I'll take the mouse and go to OBS on that third monitor, and I'll hit start recording, and then my hand's already on the mouse, so I'll move my mouse over to my second monitor, my primary monitor, where I have Vim or Emacs open, so that monitor gets focused. And again, since I already have my hand on the mouse, I just click in the document exactly where I want the mouse cursor, the mouse position to be. And that's just easy, right? Because I'm already on the mouse anyway. It doesn't make sense to, I've already got my hand on the mouse and OBS on that third monitor, and then move to the second monitor. What am I going to do? Purposely click the cursor position in a wrong place, so I have to navigate on camera using the keyboard to where I want to be? That's just making extra work for me. So that's why I do that. Obviously, you guys don't have to do that. You can use Vim and Emacs completely
keyboard driven, and typically that's what you have to do anyway in a TTY, but in a graphical environment, when you have Xorg or Wayland installed, you're actually working inside a window manager or desktop environment. It does have mouse functionality available to you, and for me, it is a convenience, again, when I've already got my hand on a mouse because I'm working in something, I don't know, like OBS or Kdenlive or GIMP, and then I move to the monitor that has Vim or Emacs open, then it makes sense just to click exactly where you want that cursor position to be. And the next question I want to answer is actually not a question, it's a comment. And